Imagine a world where losing your kid isn't just a parental nightmare, it's the setup for one of the most iconic Christmas movies of all time. Welcome to Home Alone, where family vacations cost more than most people's annual salaries and home security means elaborate booby traps that would make an engineer cry. But beyond the laughs, screams, and paint can traps, there's one burning question fans can't stop asking. How rich were the McCallisters? It's 1990. Shoulder pads are in, cell phones are brick-sized, and a little movie about an 8-year-old defending his home from 2 bumbling burglars is about to become a global sensation. From Kevin McCallister's epic battle with the wet bandits to his family's chaotic and costly travels, Home Alone has been making us laugh, cringe, and question their family budget for decades. Every holiday season, fans revive their own tradition, trying to figure out just how ridiculously loaded the McCallisters had to be to afford their mansion, jet-set vacations, and Kevin's solo adventures. Let's peel back the festive chaos and dive into the jaw-dropping finances behind one of the most beloved holiday movies ever. And hey, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, what are you waiting for? Don't make us set a booby trap to remind you. Directed by Chris Columbus, Home Alone was a runaway hit, grossing nearly $500 million worldwide and cementing itself as a Christmas classic. The plot is simple but brilliant. 8-year-old Kevin McCallister, Macaulay Culkin, is accidentally left behind when his large family dashes off on a holiday trip to Paris. Suddenly, Kevin's home alone in his sprawling Chicago mansion, finding himself in every child's wildest dream and every parent's worst nightmare. But this isn't just a story about abandonment, it's a hilarious showdown between a resourceful kid and 2 amazingly inept burglars, played to perfection by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. The movie's success spawned a franchise, including the equally lavish Home Alone 2, Lost in New York in 1992, and 4 additional, but less iconic, films. The movie opens with a bustling household of 15 people, a chaotic extended family preparing to jet off to Paris during the peak holiday season. Think flights are pricey now? Back in 1990, it was even worse, like 60% more expensive, even adjusted for inflation. Let's break it down. 11 kids crammed into economy, 4 adults kicking back in first class. During the December 19th through 26th window in 2024, an economy ticket from Chicago to Paris costs around $2,000, while a first-class seat sets you back a whopping $7,000. That means the McCallisters would spend about $50,000 on airfare in today's money. Adjust for 1990's sky-high airline prices, and their flight tickets climb to over $80,000. To put this in perspective, the average American household income in 1990 was just $29,943. Imagine dropping the equivalent of like 3 average annual salaries on a single family trip. Most of us are just trying to afford a Christmas ham, but for the McCallisters, this wasn't splurging, it was a Tuesday. By the time Home Alone 2 rolled around in 1992, the family's travel plans shifted stateside. Forget Europe, we're heading to Miami. Economy tickets for Christmas 2024 from Chicago to Miami hover around $250 per seat, with first class costing $1,200. This time, for 14 people, that's $7,550 in today's prices, or about $12,500 in 1992. Of course, thanks to Kevin's trademark chaos, the family suddenly needed last-minute flights from Miami to New York, 13 one-way economy tickets at $100 each. Add it all up, and their flights alone cost nearly $14,000. And let's not forget Kevin's indulgent stay at the Plaza Hotel, where his $976 room service bill would translate to $2,175 today. Who spends over $2,000 on ice cream sundaes and shrimp cocktails? Kevin McCallister. We learn through Kevin's mom, Catherine O'Hara, that the McCallisters are heading to Paris on her brother-in-law's dime, Uncle Rob. The generous uncle was clearly rolling in cash. Rob not only covers the airfare for the whole family, but also owns an apartment in Paris with a stunning Eiffel Tower view big enough to host 15 family members. Uncle Rob's Parisian apartment isn't just a plot point, it's a subtle flex. In 1990, owning a luxury apartment with a direct Eiffel Tower view would cost upwards of $1 million. Today, the same property could fetch over $6 million, especially in a high-demand neighborhood. And hosting 15 guests? That's no small feat either. Think extra utilities, food, and the sheer chaos of entertaining a McCallister-level crowd. On the flip side, there's the mean and stingy Uncle Frank, the one who travels with the family. We don't know much about Frank's income, but his behavior speaks volumes. He dodges the $122.50 pizza bill at his brother's house, leaving someone else to cover it, and during the flight to Paris, while enjoying his business class luxury, he cheekily tells his wife to swipe the crystal salt and pepper shakers for their collection. Classic Uncle Frank. The movie never tells us what Kevin's parents do for a living, but fans have theories. Todd Strasser, who wrote the official Home Alone novelizations, took a stab. Kate McCallister is a fashion designer. Those mannequins had to mean something, right? And Peter McCallister is a businessman because, as Strasser put it, that felt like a safe bet. Others speculate that Mr. McCallister was a stockbroker riding the legendary bull market of the 1980s and 90s. With the S&P 500 averaging nearly 18% annual growth during that time, he could have easily turned Wall Street into his personal piggy bank. From August 1982 to the end of 1999, the market soared 20% per year. That kind of return could fund a mansion, vacations, and their 10 pizzas a night lifestyle. Before we speculate any further on their finances, let's just focus on the one asset McCallisters hold that we are privy to, their Winnetka neighborhood home. Early in the movie, Harry, the Wet Bandits mastermind, played by Joe Pesci, declares the McCallisters' house as their ultimate target in the upscale neighborhood. "That's the one, Marv, the silver tuna," he says, imagining a jackpot of top-flight goods like VCRs, stereos, fine jewelry, and even odd marketable securities. Classic 90s burglary goals, right? The house itself gives us the biggest clue about the McCallisters' wealth. As of December 2024, Zillow values the iconic Home Alone house located at 671 Lincoln Avenue in the affluent Chicago suburb of Winnetka at a whopping $5.25 million. The McCallister mansion isn't just a movie set. It turned the quiet suburb of Winnetka into a pop culture landmark. After Home Alone's success, fans flocked to see the house, boosting local tourism and property values. Today, Winnetka remains one of the priciest neighborhoods in the US, with the Home Alone house as its star attraction. Even 30 years later, it's still driving interest in this luxurious corner of Chicago. With a down payment of $1.05 million, the monthly payment for the house would be $36,483. Assuming the McCallisters stuck to the rule of spending no more than 30% of their income on housing, they would have needed an annual income of about $1.46 million in 2024 dollars, roughly $604,000 in 1990 to afford the home. That's 20 times the average household income at the time. The McCallisters weren't just living the dream, they were living the dream on a private 1% budget. The McCallisters might have had deep pockets, but even they would have felt the sting of Kevin's DIY home defense budget. Between paint cans, ropes, BB guns, and tools, Kevin's arsenal wasn't just creative, it could have run up quite a bill. And let's not forget the extensive property damage caused by flooding, broken stairs, and shattered decorations. Back in 1990, experts estimated repair costs at around $15,000, which, adjusted for inflation, would be over $32,000 today. Still, can you really put a price on outsmarting the Wet Bandits in the most iconic ways? Ultimately, Home Alone isn't just about booby traps, expensive vacations, or multi-million-dollar mansions. It's about family, love, and reconnecting no matter how far apart you are, or how much chaos comes along the way. But now we're curious, what do you think? Were the McCallisters secretly billionaires, or just really good at budgeting? Do you have a favorite Home Alone moment that we didn't cover? Let us know in the comments below. See you in the next video, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals!